then there's usually a little up. There it is. Is anyone else at 9 a.m. or is everyone else at 10, 11, and 12? Carly, you're
I'm
in
at,
Wyoming,
yeah,
so you're
10 Mountain.
mountain time. Hardly ever do I get that privilege of talking to people in mountain time. I did do a recording with a gal who's in Durango. She is also fascinating. And let's see. Well, I'll stop asking you where you are because you're all here. And you've all made this opportunity for me to meet you and for you to meet each other. And Heather, you're in my upper left-hand corner. So I'm just going to say, Heather, what's happening? Do you have an event that you're headed to? Are you famous? Are you are you sought after? Do you have a paparazzi? I see a picture of you and you're standing at a podium. And I'm like, she's already got me beat because really the only podiums I've stood behind is probably just like, you know, hey, I'm just here for this reason. And then I walk off the stage. But have you been presenting in like large groups or what's been happening?
Yeah, so I can say though, it's not necessarily me, right? So as a mental health and trauma informed advocate, my goal always is to promote, organizations and individuals who are already in this work and doing the work. So yes, from an advocacy standpoint, and then sometimes my own personal journey as well. So yes, I have had opportunity through our company. We, assist with development for organizations, not for profits, consulting, but also strategic planning as well. So, yeah, there's been some opportunities and some in the future as well.
Great. Obviously, a person who is trained or has a degree or has years of putting, laying out a path for better mental health is not also an expert in all the areas that you need to be an expert in to make a whole organization run. So what do you say to someone who's maybe they come to you with an idea or they've seen someone else do something and want it to be on the ground in their area? Do you directly give them advice on how to make their vision reach the people that they want to reach?
That is actually a really great question. We don't just only do that with existing organizations and non-for-profits. We actually also do that for small business owners and people who want to start their own business. So while my background is operations, building things from the ground up, supporting, it's really an amazing space to be able to do that through a mental health and trauma informed lens. So we've been able actually to help with programming, in local government and state government as well. And we actually have a couple different models, but then it's really a matter of going in and doing a needs assessment, and seeing how we can support, every single area. It doesn't matter whether if it's aid, public or private, government, every area needs mental health. And so really that lens that moves through and through, for sustainability, for growth, for retention, for, all of those human capital things that we all need, not just on a professional level, but on a personal level as well, is really important right now.
Mm. Chanel, you and I got to talk before we went live. We both popped in even earlier. And what your one of your one of your many passions that you adopt and push forward is college students who have direct needs having to do with, finances. Do I pay for this class or do I pay for something that I need at home or in the apartment or in the dorm? Do I buy this book or do I buy a warmer coat because here I am at a university and I I don't have the resources. I'm not as prepared. And that is one of the biggest categories, is just out of high school, college students with mental health, and also with knowing that they're seen and supported, and that it is a fact of life that it costs money to get what you need and also to pursue your goals. And so you are at a university right now where you brought something that is part of the care package there, and that makes me think of the mental health. It's like, I'm putting this pressure on myself to learn. I'm putting this pressure on myself to pay the tuition bills. And now I have this pressure of just meeting my own specific needs of who I am as a person right now, maybe out on my own for the first time, maybe supported by family, maybe not supported at all by family, coming in just very solo. So, Chanel, I'm grateful that you told me why you are where you are. So, what was it that what did you bring, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me, Christine. And welcome to all of our panelists. Well, actually, that's one of the things that actually inspired me, was the mental health aspect. So right now, I'm on a college campus. This is something I supported with my undergrad, which is a program that actually just supports the students not only from a pantry standpoint, but also from a mental health standpoint, which gave me the insight to actually go to school for my graduate program, which was gerontology. So that's how I actually even came to this space, because of our older adults. It's not only the younger adults, so those are the grandbabies, but the older adults, which are the grandparents, they need mental support too. So in my program at gerontology at Georgia State University, I found out through my death and dying loss class that our older adults do suffer from social isolation, loneliness, depression, and suicide desire. So it's my passion from being on this campus for the undergrads, as well as working with our older adults, how we can do intergenerational support towards one another, because I think if we had an understanding with some of the generations, because there's kind of some tension, how can we actually support one another? But my main thing is that mental space, not only for our college students, but also for our older adults. And older adults are special for me because I've always grew up intergenerationally. I've grown up with someone, my grandmother helped raise me. She was born in 1927. And both of my parents are still alive, and they're the baby boomers. So for me being an ex, I'm more familiar with those two generations, but I also care about some of the college students coming up. So kind of intergenerationally, just very passionate about the mental health and just figuring out what other things I can do. But like for the pantry I brought this morning, just 2 or 3 items that some of the college students are going to need just for the upcoming year. More of a back to school support.
Oh, you know what? I just scrolled down and I saw that Jackie Olmstead, this is a person that I met last week face to face when Scott and he's the producer. He makes things happen right week after week after week. This is the 99th episode of Aspects of Aging. And we actually met Jackie at a little coffee spot. And Jackie, I'm sure that you would love to get a hold of many of the people that are on the screen right now, knowing your background. So happy Wednesday, ladies, is what Jackie says. And I'm scrolling up and I'm looking at Instagram. Chanel Cares, capital C, capital ARES, with a dot in between each one. So that's am I saying the right word? Anagram? No. Is anagram a game? Anyway, does it stand for something?
Yes, it stands for Comprehensive Awareness regarding Elevated Suicidality. So in this particular Instagram page, I show different aspects of what suicide looks like and what we can do to minimize the impact. So it's people who we've lost, suicide support, attempts and everything. So it's everything I've learned in my discipline program, but I use it from a perspective of we feature all ages, because most of the time when we talk about suicide awareness and prevention, usually it caps off maybe at 30, maybe pick back up at 50, but the group that's are often underlooked is the 65 and up. So we've got 65 to 100 that we really got to be careful for. Nobody really talks about it, but we're losing older adults in large numbers just due to a variety of things, because often they're at home and they're by themselves. It's easier, and because of the longevity of their life, they've had time to research, they've had time to think about methods, and it can just get dangerous. So that particular Instagram page is up just for awareness, and I plan on taking my capstone project, actually exploring what social isolation looks like, loneliness, depression, suicide, desire, not only in our older adults, but also from a cultural perspective, because it looks different in different cultures. So that is my upcoming project. I want to make sure that we have this available for the aging services going forward, just to support our older adults and the families.
April, I'm going to be swinging her up to you next. And wow, Chanel, there was just one thing. Am I correct that this all comes under behavioral science, or is there
Yes.
a better
Yeah,
umbrella?
so gerontology is actually the social, the physical, the sociological aspect of aging, and the pediatrics is the medical. So we actually marry. So I care more about the social aspect of it, because as we get older, our social support does shrink. You know, we lose people, people move away, people get busy. So I'm more interested in making sure we figure out how to not only maintain the social aspects of older adults and aging, but how do you actually support and actually try to actually do new, how do you make new friends at 50, 60, 70, 80? Because it gets harder. So I'm just really interested on how we can all take our strengths from our previous journeys and figure out how to age successfully, especially socially.
Oh, wow. I can see so many ties between college students and people, I'm just going to say, who have lived longer than I have right now. And that is, I've never been on my own before. And here's a person who's like, I've never been old before. I haven't practiced this. I'm feeling, at the very least, a little bit insecure or untrained, unprepared. Um, I'm worried about my future. Should I choose this major? Should I choose this relationship? Should I switch schools? Should I quit? Should I continue? Someone else going, I'm worried about my future. You know, should I even look at another relationship? Should I try something new? Should I just circle the wagons and write it out? Finances, you know, do I continue on in medical and know that I have huge bills to pay for years? Do I continue on with my medication, knowing that I'm on a fixed income? And, you know, so I just see all these ties between the two and what that does. My statement that I made a long time ago was the one thing that affects everything as you age is how you feel. And then I add a little part to that, and how those who care about you feel about your aging too. That part's a little bit more difficult, but how do you feel? How do you feel like you trust your doctor? Do you do what he says, she says, what they say? Do you go, they don't know what they're talking about, you know, they're not me, and I think I know my situation better. So it's going to affect everything. You know, how do I feel about what I've seen on the news? What those new people down the street? How do I feel about that? And it can be very isolating to pull in, and feel unsupported, unseen. That can happen at both. You're on a huge campus that everyone seems to be busy with something, and you're just kind of wandering lost or unconnected. Same with aging. So April, how about in your realm? Does any of this resonate? For some reason, we can't hear you.
Well, maybe I should unmute myself.
I couldn't tell when the big thing comes up at the bottom. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe she is unmuted. She's just a soft talker.
Well, thank you, Christine. Thank you for inviting me here. And I'm just really soaking in all the juicy tidbits that everybody's sharing, because I can see the common themes about mental health, about wellness, as I am a wellness advocate as well. So I'm like, yay, Heather, and Chanel and Kathy, what she's doing with these amazing cruises, and Carly. I'm excited to hear more about you. So these common themes I'm hearing is, people become isolated, and that's where the mental health, kind of deteriorates, because we don't look outside ourselves for help for one reason or another. Maybe it's the generation of, seem weak, or maybe they're in a rural area. As right now, I'm currently parked in Iowa. We're full-time RVers, and so we lived in a smaller town in Iowa, and I work with people still in the community, and there's a lot of rural places to where there's not a lot of access to healthcare. So it's more about going online and looking for that. And if we're talking about people who are not savvy with tech support, they don't know how to find or where to go to research that. So for me, when I'm hearing all of this, what it comes down to is ourselves. How are we finding that anchor of support within us as professionals, as the 6 of us sitting here? We're even asking yourself, before I serve others, I have to fill my cup first. I have to make sure that I'm feeling centered, I'm grounded. We're going to have chaotic days and things that are beyond our control, such as aging, such as, parents aging, or, other friends and things. And it's how we approach it with ourselves and accepting. And then we can have those, hopefully, supportive conversations. First, starting with ourselves, right? It all starts with us, as we're the ripple effect as we connect with other people. And then, listening. Conversation is not about talking. It's absolutely about listening, and leaning into those uncomfortable spaces, right? We're talking about very uncomfortable things for some people. And when we can be in that space and truly hold that space for them as we're listening, then that kind of eases any of the tensions, or maybe biases or judgments that we might not be aware of that we hold ourselves. So that's what I call working from the inside out, having mindfulness, being self-aware, inviting in emotional intelligence, and then paying attention to the body. Our bodies are amazing indicators of how we're feeling, or when we become activated in situations or with other people. So the more we can tune in and listen and lean in, even when it feels uncomfortable, we're really learning and building a better relationship to ourselves and to the people around us and the community. And you see where I'm going, the world, it just ripples out that way.
I'm glad you came. That is
Glad to be here.
who on this screen, who in the chat column, which also includes a mysterious LinkedIn user, talking about capturing memories and activities. And Michael Holt, he just jumped in. Who on this screen or in this chat column, or who's listening and watching without typing in, "Hey, Michael," that's a person I've actually been face to face with a couple of times. Who doesn't need to have you are the only one who knows how empty your cup has gotten, and yet you need another person to remind you that you cannot pour from your empty cup, or that they see indicators. You've allowed that person to come in and see that you are, you know, you're dried out, you don't have it, and yet you're still trying to make things good for others. So April, that's just great. I'm so glad. I mean, I could use the word self-care, but I know that originally, way back, an article that I read, that the first mentions of self-care were also knowing what you're good at, what makes you feel good. And it could be bringing toiletry products to a pantry at a university that you're just like, this is why I got up this morning, or this is why I was created, or this is something I never have to know who got blessed or something. I just one of the things I'm doing is I'm braiding jump ropes. This gal just turned 70 every year. She packs up Christmas boxes that go somewhere in the world with Project Christmas Child. And she has a thing, people are always throwing away those free t-shirts that they got from this or that, or the t-shirt doesn't fit anymore, or it's got one hole in it. And she takes those and she cuts them into strips so they end up being loops. And as I'm braiding, I'm just like, this is kind of my therapy thing. I need to stop being on screen, or stop cleaning, or stop worrying about things, and just braid and know that this might be a jump rope for a child who's getting their first gift, or being encouraged, or something new is happening in their life. And it's just kind of my little therapy right now. I just attach the loops to my filing cabinet handle and braid those, and then I bring them to her, and she's all smiles and makes it look like it's a big deal that I spent a few moments braiding these jump ropes, multicolors and everything, to bring them to her. And I feel different after I've poured back into my own cup in some way, either helping someone else or just stopping and looking at that little red bird that was on our railing and just hearing the song that it was singing and watching it hopping back and forth. And I went, apparently I needed that. I needed to just stop for a moment. Carly, you have a beautiful view of mountains in Wyoming. I was there in 2020 because nothing was happening for our son, who was a senior in high school, junior, 2020, junior, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I said, no football, no classes, no social interaction. Let's get in the car. And we went, and we came up through the south end of Yellowstone and saw Old Faithful, and there were a few places open and people trying to figure out if it was okay to come out. It was September of 2020. So I was in the area, and there were so many forest wildfires that were floating over from our state, floating over, that we could barely see the Grand Tetons. They were so shrouded. Is it clear today for you?
We're getting a little bit of smoke coming in from just some local small fires. We've had some thunderstorms, and it's been a pretty dry summer. So nothing extravagant, nothing, life-changing. It's just a little bit of haze. But, September is our fire year. We're usually by October praying for snow. So
yes. Oh my goodness. Evelyn Elaine, Carly Applegate - Evelyn Elaine.
Yep.
I know you're going to explain that at least a little bit. Go right ahead.
Well, the name of the company is it's my grandmother and her twin sister's names put together. So Elaine was my grandmother and Evelyn was her twin sister. And I had, the privilege and the heartache of being one of my grandparents' caregivers. And I've been in healthcare for over 20 years now. I'm been in post-acute care. I was a nursing home administrator for 10 years. And then I went on to home health and hospice. I built my own company and then started Evelyn Elaine about 5 years ago. It was initially as I don't know, like a community service project, right? A little bit of marketing, a little bit of goodwill, everything like that. But then it's grown into so much more over the years. And now it's my full-time commitment. We talk about filling a cup, and I think we sometimes forget that we need to have a cup first. And so Evelyn Elaine's mission is to change healthcare one caregiver at a time. And we're focusing on the family caregivers that have found themselves in that position that they're a caregiver now. They're taking care of their parents, their grandparents. And we provide a standardized training program. We call it the Caregiver Boot Camp, where we teach families all of the things that don't get relayed from the healthcare provider to the families. So, we talk about how to take vitals. Like, do you even know where to put the blood pressure cuff? Do you know how to log them? Do you know what normal respiration rates are? All of those things. So we do 5 classes. Our vitals class is our first class. The second class is a medication safety and medication hygiene class. We go through routes, vectors, even a little bit of Latin so that people understand that there is a rhyme or reason to how medications are named. We don't, we're not taking advanced pharmacology by any means. How to safely, maintain your medications, med planners, have at least 3 med planners. So one is in use, one has been washed and ready to go, and one is in the dishwasher, right? How to store the medications, how to talk about them. We teach how to do easy transfers, wheelchair to chair, chair to car, little tiny tips and tricks from other caregivers that make life easier. Our 4th class, we go over all of the paperwork. So power of attorney, legal, legal stuff like living will versus a real will versus all of those things. We don't provide any type of legal advice. We're just explaining what these documents mean and the responsibility to the caregiver. And then our final class is all about burnout. And each class kind of builds that burnout point because we want to make sure that we've got some things in place so that we're building a confident caregiver and maybe a little bit more skilled caregiver by the time that they're done with the class. And I think that I know, and I'm sure that everybody here knows, we're in a really, really weird time in history because getting old is relatively new. And you look at the route of human history. We are, the generational, especially like me, the Gen Z, the Gen X, and the Gen Z dysphoria. There are more of us who live hours and hours away from our parents than has ever happened in history as well. And so we're really struggling to meet that need. Additionally, our parents tended to be older. So we had older parents when we grew up. Now they're older and we have kids in school. So we're sandwiched where we're taking care of parents and grandparents and trying to get the kids to soccer. Or like Chanel, going to school, trying to finish that education, trying to do things. So it's a really unique time, but it's also a really scary time because the tidal wave is starting to move and it's going to tsunami here very soon. And I think a lot of people don't identify themselves as a caregiver because they don't, they're not at bedside feeding soup via a spoon. They don't really, they don't identify, I hate using that word, but they don't identify themselves as a caregiver when they truly are. And God forbid for Congress, if these caregivers, the 53 million that we have already, and the 120 plus million that are anticipated over the next 30 years. I mean, Lord help Congress if these people ever figure out what they are and how much money they're capable of controlling. And it's such a huge wave. And so Evelyn Elaine we're a very small section of that. I mean, we all know that the aging is huge. And so we're just trying to prepare families, current, future caregivers on just kind of understanding some of the aspects.
Carly, I needed you 12 years ago. You might not have already been doing this. That's when I was freelancing. Yeah, freelancing in-home caregiver. I had started with a company that they closed their doors 2 months after I started, and I was already loving my people, loving what I was there for. And one of them said, "Why don't you just keep doing it? We know you. We have to find a new company, so why not just you?" Anyway, I did receive training in future years because I knew that I needed backup. I needed professional trained backup.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you have created these 5 courses because there is a rhythm to being a family caregiver that you need to be able to continue your life, and also to give people the words, the vocabulary to, feel like when they go to that appointment that it's like, I know enough about that to ask an informed question.
Yeah.
And just life hacks. Have one here, one there, one in the dishwasher. It's just like, thank you. You're that person that my friends used to 20 years ago used to go online and hear this person going, "This is how you can handle the regular day-to-day stuff, do this, do it this way, and make sure that you have a such and such so that you can do it right again tomorrow." And they'd all be like, "Oh, I'm so empowered and informed." And it was just simple things that you don't have time to learn what everyone else has already figured out. So, just Hints from Heloise or whatever the old newspaper was. I am not ignoring you, Kathy. Do you know that? Do you trust me?
I completely trust you.
I am reading. So you said twins. Evelyn Elaine were twins.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Holt shared that he just got off the phone with his twin sister who is struggling and needed someone to help. But she is full of negativity from the world. It's real. And I have told people over and over again, hey, we're going to respond to you in the moment. So who wants to start? I mean, just speaking into Michael right now, let alone maybe giving him something that you've already I don't know. You've got a handle on stuff. There's a lot in this room right here. So go ahead. I'll actually start because this is the first time I've put you on the spot. So Michael, the first thing I thought of was right across the street, we have a hotel. And it was last summer or the summer before, someone was out under a tent. She was in her 20s. She's a single mom, little child, and I walked the dog. So I went over and said hi, and we just dove right into this deep conversation. And I thought, I'm not going to leave her. She was making sure that the people parking in the parking lot were actually registered at the hotel rather than people that were coming for an event at the park that is across the other street. And she just went right into, in this crazy world. This is probably 2 years ago. In this crazy world, the way everything is right now, I just feel like can you even plan a future? Can you even, I just feel like grabbing my child and running away and living somewhere where nobody can harm my child, no one can harm me. I'm just scared. I didn't expect that from a 20-year-old who's wearing a uniform working at a hotel. And I just stayed there and talked about the one thing that I did say was what I believe is the truth, and that comes from my years of being with people between the ages of 75 and 105, and listening to what they have experienced, what they have survived, and how they have grieved. And I said, I want to tell you that media of all sorts is going to super concentrate what is happening in pockets here and there. And it's too much for you. I'm not going to tell you to not be on social media anymore or not watch TV or listen to the radio. I'm just letting you know that it is super concentrated, that the world has had these troubles all along. There's always been a threat. There has always been an uncertainty. And I told this gal that I've been around people who have literally escaped bombs, who literally put themselves in harm's way for someone else and were true heroes. And that there is a purpose for her as being that single mom of that child, but there's just a purpose for her in life that running away and hiding, it's not, is the feeling that's a totally natural feeling to have. And I said, I can just assure you that there's always been trouble. There always will be trouble. And that you will someday be one of these elder people who say, I did the best I could in that situation. I stopped, and you'll be me, and you will be listening. Here I am 3 times your age, and you'll be listening to someone else, and you'll be able to assure them there has been trouble. There always will be trouble. But this was my part, and these are the things that I have, the person that I've been that was right in the moment for someone else. All I did was stay until I saw her shoulders relax, and she started to change to another subject. She thought of someone else who's been a hero in her past. So that's going to be my throw out at this moment. Michael, I don't know if you're still listening and watching at this time, but I know that you often pop back in and watch the rest. So I really put you all on the spot in that moment. Did anyone else want to say something before we go over to Kathy?
Well, Christine, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. Often in suicide education and awareness, one of my trainings, they talked about creating maybe a hope box. So it could be a physical box, or it could be a virtual box. So, be able to come up with things that are personally and individualized towards that person. And then you focus on that. And I will say volunteering helps. Actually, service over self. I'm actually a Rotarian. So if you start engaging yourself in things that are positive and around other positive people, then you won't feel so bad. Maybe minimize some of the social media stuff, minimize some of the television. I grew up with responsible, compassionate television, so it's a little different. Every group is different, but I would just say maybe create that hope or virtual box, and there are apps for it. So if she's young enough, or you can find all these apps, but just engage in positivity. There's journaling, there's meditation. So there's a couple of things to just keep you in a happier space.
Thank you. Practical. Wonderful. Kathy, I've only been on one cruise, and and it was really short, but we just wanted to try one once. It was many years ago, probably 30 years ago. And of all the things, a cruise for families, individuals who are living with dementia. There's no way that you just said, you know what, this would make a great business. I think I'll do it. Because I know you have an RN. Can you please tell us about that?
I am a geriatric neurology nurse, and I, in my past, was able to be in charge of a CCRC. Many years we, managed different levels of care throughout assisted living, independent living, nursing, memory, so forth. There was never a day that somebody was not pissed off. It's either the family, as Heather knows, the family's upset because, mom's peas aren't cooked well enough, or the client is sitting in somebody else's seat, and so now somebody's mad because they're in my chair. It's something constantly, or we're fighting over the number of dimes we have for bingo. I just stood back and looked at my personal world where several of my very close family members have lived through and then suffered through dementia issues. I decided there had to be a way that no matter what the diagnosis is, that we still get to enjoy living. Because I believe with all my heart that just because we have a diagnosis does not mean we should be put into the corner and told to watch TV. There's nothing wrong with television, but there's more to life. There's more to life than just sitting in a chair watching the television all the time. So I created a company that travels with professional support. So let me back this boat up. Kathy does not take 56 people to Alaska. Kathy and a full professional staff of other nurses, other doctors, physical therapists, dementia trained activity specialists, educators that will now work with the families like Carly is so passionate about. I get it. And that's exactly where we're at. We work with the families and their loved ones. This is a joint project. 2 goals. Number 1, everybody gets to make amazing memories. These caregivers have memories that they're going to hold in their heart of something that was happy. They saw their loved ones happy. They did something that was joyful. They experienced something that they will always be able to remember as this horrible disease continues to melt down. And in the moment, their loved ones are having a blast. We create moments, intentional moments, that let these people have fun. Just enjoy living. Maybe they're getting splashed by a whale in Alaska. Maybe they're putting their feet in the ocean one more time and playing with fish in the Caribbean. Maybe they're sitting and getting to see and touch the Panama Canal. Experiences that let them have joy. And so my goal is to give these caregivers some realistic, solid, positive education. Because I don't care what place you are in this caregiving cycle. We're all in a different place. We're all dealing with different loved ones with different diagnoses, different behavior issues, different medications. And we're all going to learn from each other. So I take professional speakers, professional educators to work with our caregivers in some workshop settings. We create caregiver circles so that they learn from each other. And then at the same time, we create adult daycare programming, music therapy, art therapy. We go out for walks. We go play board games upstairs. We create experiences that each one of our clients is attached to. From complete research before we leave, we know that George loves to play Scrabble. So there's going to be a Scrabble game in my bag so that George can play Scrabble because that's what he loves. We know that Sam loves to play the beanbag toss game. And so I've got that lined up with the activity people on the ship, and he's going to get to go play the beanbag toss game with my staff. So they're going to get to do things that are fun while their caregivers are learning, exchanging ideas, or maybe they're just sitting in the hot tub having a mango margarita, and that's what we're going to have caregiver circle, because that's what we did in Alaska. Outside of a glacier, we sat in the hot tub with mango margaritas and had a caregiver circle in the hot tub, because now there's no barriers. There's no walls. We've dropped everything. We've just put them into a place where they're comfortable. They're looking at the most magnificent scenery in the world.
Yeah.
And now they communicate about stuff that really helps each other. How do we keep mom in the house? How do we manage the medications? How do we deal with blood sugar issues when you have a diabetic? You know, the list goes on and on and on and on. Yeah. And we don't cover all of it by any means, but I'm very specific to have different speakers with different topics on each event, because I have a lot of repeat clients and I want them always to have new and fresh information. So we have completed 54 dementia-friendly caregiver cruises. And the cruise is not just an accident. The most complex process of this situation is the packing and unpacking. We do not need to pack and unpack every morning and have the suitcase out in front of the room at 7 o'clock for somebody to come pick it up to get on the bus. That happened. So we need to unpack once and put all the suitcases away so that all the stress and all the anxiety from a suitcase goes away. And now we need to just enjoy. And they can see the world from one room, the same space, the same table where we eat. There's a lot of significant similarities that stay the same so that everybody remains comfortable. We have an enclosed conference space with a door so that everybody feels secure and safe. We have a staff at a ratio of 1 to 4. I have one professional to every 4 travelers, and I have 24-hour RN support. So they are met at the airport, handle their luggage, take them back to the group hotel. We have a group transfer over to the cruise. We help them unpack. We take their loved ones down to tea and get cookies and bonbons while they're unpacking so that they can have a couple seconds to get their space organized. And then we just start having fun. So the cruise piece of it lets us go to many, many, many different destinations. Not only Alaska, the Caribbean, Bermuda, Mexican Riviera, and we're going to go to Europe in a few weeks. So there's no end to where we can go. We just have to manage each individual challenge. The biggest challenge with our Europe experience will be the flight. That will be the challenge. And we have several accompanied flights. So myself, I'll be flying with a family. I have several other people flying with other families so that the caregiver can take a nap, you know, and if Martha does not want to sleep, then okay, we'll play games. And I'm going to have a whole bag of tricks ready to play games so that her husband, who is already stressed out up to his eyebrows, can just take a break for a little bit. So I love what we get to do. And nobody else is doing this that I'm aware of. Most people think I'm a lunatic, and I am not, because I can't even tell you the joy that we get, the privilege. We have the privilege to bring joy to so many people.
I envision the room where the education is happening and the caregiving people who are like, we all understand each other. I'm in a room full of people, and it's not a 1-hour support group once a week that I can't always get to because it just doesn't work with my loved one. We've pushed off. I'm here. I'm not gonna, be asked to leave because my person is being disruptive or whatever, and just when we're kind of like sharing with each other, and then this person comes in front of us and says, and here's some other approaches and some other means, and this is the bag of tricks that Kathy Schoaf-Spear takes with her for a flight. So we're no mystery. It's not, you need to get somebody else to do this. They need to be, have these initials. It's like, you can do this too. I just imagine people just tingling, just go, and then they come out of the conference room and they're like, look at that glacier. Oh my goodness, it's calving.
And now we're going to go to the dining room and watch it do that together. And the
Yeah.
conversations get to continue because we're going to go to the dining room together. We're going to eat lunch together. We don't lock them up and they are obligated to stick with us. But every opportunity that they want to be with us, we will have the support there to help them with their loved ones. So if they're in the middle of a great conversation at lunch, one of my staff is going to take her husband to the bathroom. She's not going to have to interrupt everything she's doing. Someone will just get up and take him to the restroom. It's just a very simple process to give her the chance to just communicate with other wives or other daughters that are in this caregiving process, which is exhausting. And, the conversations that we had earlier about self-care and you can't help somebody without your cup being full yourself. You are so profoundly right. I am your poster child because I have two parents with dementia. My mother just recently passed away from vascular dementia. And the stress, I'm the nurse. Hey, I know all the answers. I have a neurology degree, for crap's sake. I can do this. It's no big deal. Yeah, right. It is not that simple. It is not that obvious. And the things that we do know about how to manage the medications, you completely forget about because you're so stressed out and you haven't been to bed for 4 days. Well, I ended up having a heart attack because the stress is overwhelming. And so I don't hesitate to tell people that because, I'm the professional that knows the answers. I teach it. I've talked to 600 neurologists. I know how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, but doing it yourself is painfully difficult. And in a caregiver circle, one of my clients gave me the best clue information of how to keep my mother in the house. I'm like, oh my gosh, Brittany, that's it. That's how to do this. Thank you. Because you're so exhausted and stressed out trying to run your own business, trying to take care of everything else that happens with our lives. And then you've got all of this falling apart in front of you. And I really needed my mother in the house and not outside at 3 a.m. It was, there's just so many pieces to that puzzle that you don't evaluate all of the things that are going to fall apart. I mean, my mother was a pharmacist from the early 50s. She did things that women didn't do in the early 50s. I wasn't mentally or emotionally prepared for the incontinence issues, for the babysitting process, for the issues that happened that were just overwhelming. And I'm not alone. It's the process of how aging is being handled in this country at the moment. And, there are so many family caregivers that are drowning. And so we take as many people as I can manage in the conference space that we have been allotted by the cruise ship. And we have an amazing, joyful experience. And I'm really happy to meet you guys. It's just such a pleasure to hear other people that sync with my brain. Sometimes I think that, most other nurses are like, why would you do this? It's way too hard. And other travel professionals are like, come on, let's just book something else. I'm like, this just matters. It matters. I've never worked harder, but I've never done something that felt like it truly mattered. Like this matters.
Wow.
So
Yay.
I'm just really honored for the opportunity to go to work every day.
I mean, this imagery of water, and it's just like a wave just splashed over. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you
Thank you.
for going, yes, it's crazy because apparently no one else has quite done this. And a lot of things didn't make sense. Gerontology didn't make sense. 50, was it 50? Okay. So the gal that I talked to here in Oregon, gerontology, she said, well, now that we're recognizing that it isn't home economics and it isn't that covers everything, and it isn't family sciences or family living or whatever it was called that covers everything, because more people are living longer than they used to. And so she started up the first gerontology conference. And I don't know how much encouragement she got. I know that it was the first. And then 46 years later, I'm sitting next to her at breakfast and find out that she's the founder of this. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I just wanted to come and be around people who the same thing. We understand, we totally understand why we saw a gap, or measured, a gap and built a bridge of some sort over that, and working hard. Carly, what you're doing, you're working hard to, do something that others haven't quite done it that way, because without each of you individually in your own realm, in the way that you approach situations, there just really isn't anyone else. So thank you for just driving it through. And it is hard for people to understand. I've had more than once people have gone, you want to talk about aging as a show? Christine, people don't like to talk about aging. They want to wait until it's a problem and then pull their hair out trying to find solutions. They don't want to talk about it until then, because aging is negative, negative, negative. And I'm like, that's not what I saw. I saw 96-year-olds who are making plans for next summer. Didn't matter. Yeah, there's statistics, and maybe they won't be around. But they are today, and they're making plans, and they're telling me about the past, the present, their projected future. And I'm privileged to be around these people. And I identified with them. I'm like, I feel like a 96-year-old, not because of aches and pains or wearing out, or, just want to sit in front of a TV. Like you said, it shouldn't be all sitting in front of a TV, because I feel like I have advanced in age, and I've still got a trajectory. I still have ideas, and I may as well leverage my aging and say, you know what? Call me crazy. Call me, a dreamer. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to find people who want to talk about aging, and more, complaining about it. I'm sure you can find that somewhere else. How about tell me what you're doing right? Tell me what you've seen. And Kathy, you told us that one of your own clients said, this is another approach to that challenge. And you're like, thank you. Mom's going to stay safe inside, and I'm going to get a night's sleep. Oh my goodness. In these last moments, I have Heather Proctor, Carly Applegate, Chanel Reed, April Wyatt, Kathy Spearshof, all on the screen. I have Jackie Olmsted, Michael Holt, and the mystery person who is a LinkedIn user who's capturing memories. We have people who will be listening in the future, because this will be available at agingbetternetwork.com /live, but you can get to it from simply agingbetterNetwork.com. It will be there so that you can push pause and say, wait a minute, how do I get a hold of that? I have friends, dear friends, who need help because 2 parents and an auntie are all on their plate, all with different forms of cognitive impairment. I want to gift them with a cruise. I have a friend who needs help from us. What did you call yourself? A suicidologist? No. What was that, Chanel? You are a suicide
Well,
expert.
I have a couple of gerontology, but also suicidologists, which is just expert about just different aspects and just trying to make sure that people have the resources that they need in any aspect of suicide, because it's just so many different layers. But yeah, I took a lot of classes. I'm actually right now in a research lab in which we talk about suicide for my older adults. So older adults for me is anywhere from 65 and up. And I also provide some educational with American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, specifically for our older adults, because they're often left out of the conversation.
And the mystery user said, that's me, Larissa Botkin. That is me. So thank you, Larissa. Now we know how to get a hold of you. Heather, you started us off. What is your one thing that you want to make sure that you let people know so that when they're starting off or continuing their organization, they can be like, I remember her. She's the one. I saw her. I need to get a hold of her company.
I think that to kind of wrap up the space that we all are in, is just allowing ourselves, space and grace to continue to learn and grow, and really being in that place of just allowing change. And it doesn't matter whether it's our business or personally or professionally, that we take self-care just by allowing ourselves space, by allowing ourselves to change our mind and showing grace to ourselves and others. And, when we have those opportunities, that we can, stop and pause and just, really be present, I think is really crucial right now for all of us. And, and this is the support that's also helpful as well and so needed.
Yay. April and Carly. Carly, you're both ready. So April, go right ahead.
Go really quick.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that, Heather, that you're talking about self-care, remembering that we're not alone. And also finding those internal resources within ourselves. And that's what I love to do. I love to support people, especially with breath work. So to release those tensions, to melt those outer layers that we just are holding and holding and holding because we're trying to manage so many things at once. And our breath is so powerful and healing. So that's what I can contribute to this beautiful stone soup of collective consciousness here today. And I'm so grateful to be part of this and to meet each and every one of you. I'll be reaching out.
Yeah, and April already knows that I use that. There's just a way that I breathe in and blow out as if through a straw. And it's been with me for years because we all have junk. Carly, what would you like to say in conclusion?
I think the biggest thing is when we're talking about people who are aging, first, people who get old, they're the lucky ones, right? You should consider yourself lucky. How many people didn't make it to 20? How many people don't make it to 40, 50, 60, and so on? So you should consider yourself, part of the lucky ones. And, to our family caregivers, the ones that are out there struggling, I cannot iterate this enough. There are more of you than you think. You are not alone. There's a ton of, professionals out there who are, working on solutions or have developed solutions. It's not a whole solution, but nothing ever is. And I, if nothing else, if you're watching this and you're at a loss, I think I speak for everyone on the panel that, we're just an email away. And if we can't help you, we'll, try to direct you in the right direction.
Thank you so much. Kathy, you're headed to Europe.
We are.
Wow.
I'm headed back to Alaska with a group at the end of the month.
Oh,
and then
there
we're
you
going
go.
to Alaska in September.
Oh my goodness.
My joy, and I think that my reality as a professional, as a nurse and a travel professional, everybody deserves to enjoy life, no matter what their diagnosis. Because I would challenge that every one of us, those that are watching and listening, and those of us that have been chosen to speak, all have a diagnosis of some kind. There's something going on that we wish we didn't have. It might be arthritis, it might be weight issues, it might be diabetes, it might be heart problems. We all have something. Mm-hmm. And every person deserves to still have the privilege to enjoy life, no matter what kind of diagnosis has come into their life. Mm-hmm. So I just believe that everybody still deserves to have fun. And sometimes it's more challenging than others to help them or allow them to have fun. But it's all doable. Period. It's all doable. We can do that. We can provide mobility assist. We can provide feeding assist. We can provide incontinence issues. We can manage issues. Everybody deserves the chance to still have fun.
Yay. And you've brought us both a peek into your own life and how hard it is to be a family member that is having to be everything to one of your loved ones to the point of a heart attack, and how you are so dedicated to joy and to bringing joy and to bringing information and giving people tools. So when they get off the boat, they're like, here, I have got what I'm going to be doing next. So,
but we've got a bag of tricks. I might need them today. I might need them next week. I might need them 2 years from now, but I'm going to need them.
Right.
And we have bags of tricks, of pieces of information to help someone go forward.
One husband said he's reading the same book with advice for caring for his wife for the third time, and each of those times, and they're separated by years, each of the times there's a different situation happening that he's like, oh, I read that before, but now is when I need to implement that particular one. Chanel, I'm going to let you say goodbye because you just popped back in. Say goodbye and just any last thought that you would like to put on the screen.
Well, today has been an amazing, informative panel. I love all of the stories, all of the work that we're doing to keep not only our society safe, but our older adults safe. And I was just if you could just find something to keep you safe and calm during our troubling time, that would be just my work's done. So thank you so much for this wonderful platform. It's been amazing.
And you've all given me an extra 8 minutes. I'm going to say Aging Better Network. I do have a practical guide that I wrote, and that was from my years of experiencing grief through the eyes of the people that I cared for in their homes. It's a practical guide on how you can grieve healthfully on your own terms. And the other Pre-Act Your Age prompted journal, I narrowed it down to 52, only 52 general, common aspects of aging that if you go through that, you can look at 1 2-page spread and go, what's this about? Ooh, I have an opinion on that. I'm being encouraged to communicate that with someone who cares about me. I see a reason here to document that. I see a way to practice for that situation that might be in my future and definitely will be in the future of somebody that I interact with or care about. And so those are my 2 books that are also available at agingbetternetwork.com. When you go to the live stream part, you can scroll down and see all of the screenshots that archive each of the episodes, including today's, the 99th episode of this weekly Wednesday program. Yay! Thank you, ladies. This is a milestone. It's going to be
Congratulations.
3 digits
Congratulations.
from here on out.
Awesome.
Thank you for being part of this. Bless your hearts. Thank you to my husband for sticking around for 10 extra minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful